Welcome to JA Finance Park Teacher Training. This training will focus on the project-based learning version of the curriculum, and you should follow up with a second video that covers either the on-site or virtual simulation. Let's get started. Junior Achievement is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to inspire and prepare young people to succeed in a global economy. We do so through fun and engaging curriculum in the areas of financial literacy, workforce readiness, and entrepreneurship. One of the key components of JA programming is the partnership between schools and JA volunteers who deliver many of the JA programs. The JA of Middle Tennessee office, based in Nashville, is one of over 100 area offices throughout the country and serves 22 counties across the volunteer state. In addition to JA's K-12 traditional or classroom programs, Junior Achievement offers Capstone Programs. These programs involve classroom curriculum, typically of a longer length, and an experiential learning simulation for students to apply the knowledge they've learned in the classroom. JA of Middle Tennessee offers 3 capstone programs: JA BizTown, JA STEM Summit, and JA Finance Park. Within the JA Finance Park program, there are 3 curriculum options: traditional, project-based learning, and a student self-guided version. This training will cover the project-based learning, or PBL, version of the curriculum. We know educators have a lot on their plates. Our goal is to make teaching the JA Finance Park curriculum as simple as possible. So by the end of this training, you'll understand the purpose of JA Finance Park, how to effectively use the curriculum, understand the teacher responsibilities for a successful student simulation experience, both before, during, and after the student's visit, and the basic operation of the simulation. As we begin, please write down any questions you have regarding the information covered in this training. There will be time to address those questions later on during the session. Each component of the program helps you as the teacher to lead your students through the JA Finance Park curriculum to help them gain a better understanding of how to plan for financial success. Once teacher training is completed, classroom instruction begins. There are 12 core lessons to be completed prior to the student's simulation. Volunteers are a very important component of all JA programs. The primary way volunteers are used within the JA Finance Park program is through the on-site simulation. On average, 15 adult volunteers are needed to facilitate an in-person simulation. Local volunteers have also created a library of short videos to accompany the JA Finance Park lessons. Use of these video resources is optional for schools participating in an on-site simulation. For schools using the virtual simulation, volunteer video integration is expected with each of the lessons. When it comes time for the simulation, whether on-site or virtual, students will use knowledge and skills from the classroom instruction to participate in a budget simulation and get a small glimpse into adulthood. We'll discuss more details about the simulation later in the training. Finally, following the simulation, there is one required debrief lesson, which we'll also review later in the training. We hope that you'll find the JA Finance Park curriculum to be easy to implement. We recommend reading through each lesson before you teach it and locating necessary materials that may be needed to assist with the lesson, though preparation time is minimal. The content is aligned to meet many of Tennessee's state standards, and the lessons provide flexibility as educators can choose which extension activities to adopt for deeper dives they may wish to take into the core lessons. There is a great deal of flexibility in how the JA Finance Park curriculum can be taught. For example, some schools may teach 1 or 2 lessons per week for several weeks leading up to the simulation, where others stretch the curriculum out over the course of a semester-long class. Be sure to allot at least 12 traditional 50-minute class sessions for instruction prior to the simulation, and time for debriefing and student presentations after the simulation. Because of the nature of PBL, with lessons being student-centered, the time requirement for lessons may be greater than anticipated. In order to finish the activities, there will be days when teachers need to encourage or push students to complete tasks, or plan to have students complete research, report preparation, or other projects outside of class time. Every school is different. We are more than happy to work with you and your team to strategize the best way to deliver the curriculum at your school. Student goals for the program include developing and following a monthly budget, researching and understanding cost of living that comes with adulthood, developing and demonstrating personal responsibility for learning, self-management, and decisions about their careers and finances, and thinking creatively, analyzing tasks, and solving problems. The project-based learning version of the JA Finance Park curriculum was designed with high school students in mind. What is the difference between doing a project and project-based learning? PBL is more often multidisciplinary than a project, which is more often single subject-based. Projects can be done without or with limited teacher guidance. PBL requires teacher guidance and team collaboration. Projects are based on directions and student choice is limited. PBL is based on a driving question that encompasses all aspects of the learning and establishes the need to know. Students in PBL are then given guidelines and have the ability to make many of their own choices. PBL involves real-world, authentic tasks, and projects may use case studies or fictitious scenarios to illustrate problems. Projects are often turned in, and all students' work looks pretty much the same. PBL is presented to an audience, often people from outside the classroom, and everyone's presentation is different, reflecting the tools and technology most applicable to the student. In PBL, the responsibility for learning shifts from the teacher to the student. Teachers will use a guiding question to provide a vision for the culminating project or presentation expected of the students. The JA Finance Park guiding question is, what do I need to do today to accomplish what I want in the future? To successfully utilize the PBL lessons, be aware of the following. PBL is heavily technology-based. Students will need access to the internet for nearly every class session. The PBL method doesn't give grades, but rubrics are provided throughout the PBL sections and are used for both student self-assessment and teacher assessment. Finally, the culminating project is front and center throughout each lesson. It is introduced at the start of the PBL lessons and revisited within each topic or unit as students make connections between the new content they learn and how it relates to the driving question and culminating project. Now let's review the specific materials educators will receive as part of the JA Finance Park program. Teachers have the option to receive hard copies of the following resources, and all teachers will have access to electronic versions of the curriculum. First, the teacher guide is available in a hard copy 3-ring binder and is a non-consumable resource and should remain with the school for continued use so long as the school continues to participate in JA Finance Park. New guides will be provided every couple of years, and when updates are made to the program, the JA Finance Park manager will supply the school with replacement pages. All components of the teacher guide are available in PDF form as well, either through the JA Connect learning platform or from the JA Finance Park manager. Student workbooks are a consumable resource and are replaced each year a school participates in JA Finance Park. The workbooks are used primarily with the traditional version of the curriculum, but are available to PBL teachers should they wish to incorporate extension activities from the traditional curriculum. These are also available in electronic fillable PDFs for teachers who may wish to use them in their school's LMS. PowerPoint slides related to specific lessons are available, though utilized sparingly in the PBL, and accessibility will be addressed later in the training. The hard copy of the teacher guide contains several curriculum tabs listed here. Regardless of whether you're teaching the traditional or the project-based learning curriculum, both are included in the guide. You can see the 4 primary units or themes of the traditional curriculum highlighted in orange. The PBL component of the teacher guide condenses everything under one tab. Let's talk about the format and features of each JA Finance Park unit and lesson before we explore the content of the lessons further. For each unit or theme, a symbol is used. For example here, in the income unit, it's the dollar bill. You'll also see the lessons that are part of the unit. In the case of income, there are 4 required lessons. Teachers are encouraged to review the optional extension activities from the traditional curriculum section of the teacher guide as well. These are not incorporated directly within the PBL portion of the teacher guide, but can and often are used in conjunction with the PBL curriculum. The teacher guide also includes links to high school CCSS, national financial literacy standards, and 21st century skills at the beginning of each unit. Correlations to state standards are posted on the JA of Middle Tennessee website. The introduction for a given PBL lesson includes an overview, key materials and resources, and vocabulary listed in the pink box. Each lesson plan includes a recommended length of time. Given the nature of PBL and student research, however, these lessons can easily be extended to accommodate additional student or group work time. Computers or tablets with internet connectivity are required for the majority of lessons, and recommended websites for the lesson are listed here. In the event a school or district has high restrictions on internet access, it is suggested that teachers give these websites to the appropriate IT personnel ahead of time to ensure students have access. Following the unit overview, the PBL lessons are broken down by stages, and each typically includes a set the stage portion for the teacher to begin the dialogue for the session, followed by the student project, and ending with an assessment or a need-to-know time to check for understanding. Each section has a recommended length of time, though teachers again have the freedom to expand upon this as they see fit or as students need additional time for research. If your school or district uses an online learning management system, such as Schoology or Google Classroom, teachers can easily add the student assignments and websites for research to those platforms for students to have direct links or submit work electronically directly to their instructors. Some PBL lessons contain an optional activity denoted by the gold box. These are at the teacher's discretion and remain project-based, but are different from the extension activities included within the traditional curriculum. The optional activities are a great way to build upon the core lessons in creative ways. For those familiar with PBL, you know that a key component of this method is the student presentation of his or her learning. Most of the units provide a rubric to assist in the assessment of student work throughout the unit. These can be modified as educators see fit for their particular classes. As previously mentioned, there are 12 required lessons prior to the simulation. Let's take a look at how these are broken down across the different units in the PBL curriculum. In the income unit, there are 4 lessons. Saving, Investing, and Risk Management has 2 lessons. Debit and Credit has 3 PBL lessons, and the Budget Plus unit has 3 PBL lessons. Following the simulation, there is a debrief lesson and time for students to make their presentations. With each unit of study, there are between 3 and 8 extension activities available. Time requirements for each extension activity vary. Some are as short as 15 minutes, while others require up to an hour. These are optional and can be used at the teacher's discretion. Some may be more appropriate for middle school, while others for high school. For instance, the extension activity related to the FAFSA, the Free Application for Federal Student Aid, is valuable to high school students, but may not yet be relevant to middle schoolers. Let's take a closer look at the 4 main themes and culminating project used in the JA Finance Park curriculum. Let's begin with the end in mind. The beginning of each PBL section demonstrates how the culminating project meets the lesson objectives. As students complete the research and activities, they will gather information that will become a part of their culminating project, the My Life scenario. Students will individually create a My Life scenario portfolio and in small groups create the My Life scenario presentation. The presentation can be based on PowerPoint or Prezi slides, a video, skit, song, or other mode of expression agreed upon between the students and teacher. The presentation itself should be presented, ideally to an audience other than solely classmates. This could include business partners, parents, school administrators, and does not need to be large. Over the course of the 4 lessons within the income unit, students will focus on which courses they should take to attain their educational and career goals, and where they can work, volunteer, job shadow, or intern as students or after high school. JA's web-based digital career book can be especially helpful in this unit as students research local options for their post-secondary education, whether a trade school, associate, or bachelor's degree. In addition, the platform allows students to see which local companies offer different specific careers, so the students can really imagine where they might get to work someday after high school. In the Saving, Investing, and Risk Management unit, there are 2 core lessons and 2 optional activities, where students focus on their short-term and long-term financial goals and how to begin making wise financial decisions to avoid risk. In the Debit and Credit unit, students encounter 3 lessons with a similar focus as the Saving, Investing, and Risk Management section. Here, they will compare financial institutions and their services, discuss similarities and differences between debit and credit cards, understand the concept of credit and a credit score, including ways to build good credit and how their credit may impact future personal finance decisions. This particular unit is incredibly practical and one that every high school student should take before they graduate. In the Budget Plus unit, students participate in 3 required lessons and try to answer the question, what is the most realistic budget I can live with? In the PBL curriculum, students actually begin their debriefing process prior to the simulation. They will typically spend 3 class periods or an adequate amount of homework time preparing their life stages portfolio and the culminating project presentation. Portfolios will contain research and answers from each JA Finance Park unit and can be in any format the teacher approves of. A rubric is included in the teacher guide. For the culminating project presentation, students are divided into teams based on the life stage they wish to focus on and feel they can act on as an expert. Teams work together to develop a 5-minute presentation on their topic area. Presentations can be in any creative format with teacher approval, and again, rubrics are provided in the teacher guide. The culminating presentations are then presented after the simulation, along with the class-wide debrief. After completing the 12 core lessons, students will participate in the JA Finance Park simulation. If completing the on-site simulation, students will visit JA of Middle Tennessee's JA Finance Park presented by the Truist Foundation for their capstone experience. If completing the virtual simulation, students will be able to participate from their classrooms or homes depending on the teacher's discretion. We'll discuss more details about the logistics and flow of both simulation options in a separate training video. The culminating presentations are then given back at school after the simulation, along with a debrief class period to discuss the entire JA Finance Park process and learning. The debrief lesson provides an opportunity for students to reflect on the simulation and compare that with their My Life scenario presentation and portfolio. Individual student reports from the simulation are also available to educators. Some teachers find them to be a helpful review tool, and others incorporate them as a class grade. The post-program survey is also taken by students during this class period, assuming that the pre-program survey was given prior to the start of the curriculum. At the very back of the hard copy of the teacher guide is a resources tab that contains information specific to the on-site simulation visit, including a sample simulation schedule, parent and guardian forms, a simulation visit checklist, some frequently asked questions, and directions and map to the JA Finance Park facility. If a teacher decides to forego the hard copy and use only electronic copies, these will be emailed to the teacher or given out at the end of training so that teachers still have access to pertinent information relevant to our local simulation. Regardless of whether teachers choose to use a hard copy of the teacher guide or the electronic version, everyone will receive a copy of the teacher checklist following the training. This PDF is helpful for printing for those that prefer to check things off by hand, but does contain live links to important websites and should be kept in electronic form in a file or desktop where it's easily accessible. Websites include the JA website, pre- and post-program surveys, the JA of Middle Tennessee YouTube channel with playlists to volunteer videos, program verification and educator surveys that are completed at the end of the program. Teachers will also gain access to the JA Connect learning platform, learn.ja.org. It's here that teachers will be able to access electronic versions of the teacher guide, PowerPoints, fillable PDFs of the student workbook, and some of the videos used directly within the JA Finance Park program. Access for the JA Connect learning platform uses the teacher's email address of record Passwords may need to be reset if the teacher has not logged in recently or is a first-time user. If you have any questions from the training, please submit them in the chat box before we move on to the simulation portion of the training. If you have any questions about the JA Finance Park program, curriculum, simulation, or other logistical details, please don't hesitate to reach out to the JA of Middle Tennessee staff for assistance.